Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to take you along for a day in the life of an Appalachian Trail Ridgerunner. My trail name is TideWalker and I have been lucky enough to be a Ridgerunner on the trail for 2 seasons. The first in 2016 and then most recently in 2021 in Shenandoah National Park. So first thing I do when I get up is I take down my tent and pack up my camp so I can go have breakfast at the shelter. There's usually a picnic table out in front and I'll hang out with the other hikers. And once everybody leaves, it's time to clean the privy. I make sure to be the last one to leave so I can do a last sweep around the shelter and tent sites for any leftover trash. And then right before I leave, I will clean the privy. And Shenandoah is pretty great because they have this equipment for me to use, like this shit stirrer and gloves and a broom, paper towels, cleaning supplies, and those pine shavings in that bucket. Because the other place I worked as a Ridgerunner, we did not have those things. And I would have to go search for a very big stick in the woods to knock the cone with. So the privies in Shenandoah National Park are actually composting privies, and that's what the pine shavings are for, is you take a handful of them and put them down into the toilet after use. That helps with composting. And there's 2 bins underneath the toilet seat. One that is being used and being filled, and the other one where it's been sitting there, the waste has been sitting there for several years composting. And as you can see here, this is what knocking the cone means. I'm just leveling out the mound that forms. And this one in particular is pretty decent. There's not that big of a mound. So back to the bins. Once this one is full, then a group will come out called the Crapper Crew, and they will shovel out the composted waste in the other bin that's been sitting there and deposit that composted waste out onto the forest floor. And then that one will become empty, and they'll move the seat over to the empty bin and let this filled one compost over several years. And then once I get back on trail, I radio into dispatch. This is unique to the park that they give me a radio to do this. So I tell them where I'm headed for the day and the time I expect to be there. And they also have set times that they know they can reach me to let me know if I need to be looking for anything. And that's going to be an hour in the morning, an hour at lunch, and an hour once I get to the shelter. A major part of the job is to clip vegetation overhanging the trail. I carry a pair of these garden clippers with me to cut these vines and brambles. And it's important because if left unchecked, they'll just grow wild and cover the trail and scratch up hikers, and they'll have to maneuver around all these vines. I do pick up a lot of trash along the trail, like this used toilet paper, but I will say that this is usually from day users, perhaps people that are just driving through the park. They'll just go right off trail to use the bathroom, and you know, they probably don't know about leave no trace, and they just leave their toilet paper there for all to see. As you saw, I carry that little Ziploc bag with me to deposit any micro trash that I find on the trail. And I also have a bigger plastic bag with me that I will put larger items of trash in. And depending on how bulky it is, I might have to strap it to the outside of my pack. Last time I was a Ridgerunner, I've had to carry garbage bags full of things that people have left at shelters, ranging from clothing and underwear to shoes to broken tent poles and sleeping bags. Anything you can think of, people have probably left it out on the trail. This area is a beautiful area in the park called Black Rock with some lovely views. I also want to say that the main part of my job as a ridge runner, which I like to consider myself a trail ambassador, is to help the hikers and to educate on Leave No Trace. Because there is a wide range of users on the trail, like I said, from day hikers that may not know about packing out their trash, to through hikers who have questions about the water sources and how far they are from places. So I'm out there to help hikers. I'm also trained in first aid in case I come across someone that's injured. Also in the park I have that radio, so I'm able to get help if more help is needed. I'd also say a major part of my job as ridge runner in Shenandoah National Park is to let everybody know about the blackberry milkshakes at the wayside. That is very important and should not be missed. So this is an example of having to saw down a blowdown. So this one is a little blowdown, a tree that has fallen on the trail. And I usually first try to see if I can just pick it up, which this tree limb is quite small, but it's attached, and so I can't really move it. So that's where my handy dandy saw comes in, and I can quickly saw this up and remove it off trail. Larger tree limbs that require maybe a chainsaw, that's something I will report for trail maintainers to come take care of. There's also a lot of deer in Shenandoah National Park, and they are not afraid of people. I've had to just walk right past them before because they will just not move. And I will say black bears are also very common in the park. However, I never even came across one, never saw one during my stint as a ridge runner in the park this past year. Here's some more micro trash. Little pieces of plastic and a Band-Aid. That'll go in my Ziploc bag. And more trail maintenance. Now, I will say the majority of trail maintenance is taken care of by volunteers, and they are incredible. If you ever see a trail maintainer, you thank them, because the time that they have spent taking care of the trail is astounding, and it's such hard work to keep up with this. Some of these volunteers have had sections of trails for years, maybe even decades, and they spend so much time out there. And for the thousands of people that are on this trail a year, you would not have a trail if it wasn't for them. Thank a trail maintainer. This is Skyline Drive, the scenic drive through the park, and I cross it many times. The trail goes through the park for about 100 miles, so you cross that road several times. We have 2 ridge runners for the park for that 100-mile stretch, and we'll just take half a section at a time when we're out there for 5 days at a time, and then we'll just swap. Now, I was only out there for a month during the peak part of the season where the most hikers are there, and my co-ridge runner was there from, I believe, March or April till October, so he has a long season there. And here I am. I've arrived at the shelter for the night. Usually get there fairly early before most hikers get there, which helps me do a sweep around to check for trash. And every shelter has this logbook, and I like to read what the hikers are saying. Sometimes they'll say if there's a nuisance animal around, or they'll just comment on how they're feeling, and I like to read that. And here I am checking the fire pit for trash. A lot of people, I find, they'll try to burn their trash, thinking that's a way that they can get rid of the weight instead of having to pack it out, but we don't advise you to do that. Obviously, there's some items that can't even be burned, like some people will try to burn the the packages that their dehydrated meals come in, and those just don't fully burn, and it just ends up making a lot of micro trash that I have to pick up. And I find that if someone leaves trash, other people will see that trash and they're more inclined to leave trash. So just don't leave your trash. Pack it out, pack it out. And this is a bear box. This is where you can store your food at night so animals, specifically bears, won't get into it. They also have bear poles where you can hang your food, but I find that their bear boxes are better. And I checked it just to make sure that nobody had left any trash in there. And here's the spring. I like to see the conditions. This one is fairly dry, but there's still some water there. That way I can let hikers know the water source still has water that they can fill up at. Next, I'm going to these tent pads to check to see if there's any trash. And this pole right here, that's another bear pole. And as the video comes to a close, I want to share some more things that I do in a day that I didn't catch on camera, mainly interacting with other hikers. So whenever I come across a hiker on trail, I'll stop and chat with them, and I'll usually try to go southbound because the majority of hikers will be headed northbound, and that way I can run into as many as possible. And I also keep track of how many hikers I come across a day. That way in my reports to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club, who I work for, they know how many hikers and trail users are on the trail. I also spend a considerable amount of time covering illegal campsites that go against backcountry regulations. So we find that a lot of folks are camping just off the trail instead of staying at established campsites or going off the trail at least 20 yards. So I try to get some sticks and leaves to cover the areas to dissuade others from camping there as well. And if you want to learn more, I've written several articles about my time as a ridge runner that you are welcome to check out. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on the trail.